Well, we're back, and yeah, I know the season has not gone well for South Carolina baseball, but we are still here, and we're talking baseball. So, what is going on, everyone? Happy Thursday! Welcome into another edition of GC Live. I'm your host, Jack Veltri, joined by, as always, by my co-host, former South Carolina right-handed pitcher, Ethan Carter. Ethan, how we doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Wish the baseball was going a little bit better, but we got some stuff to talk about, and like I said, it's we're trucking right along. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. I just got off a radio. I've been filling in this week on a local radio station here and was just doing 3 hours. So, I'm ready to talk about this and, get back to just hopefully find a little bit of time to relax before covering this baseball game tonight. And as you can tell by my background, I'm not in Auburn. I am not going this weekend. And, it's just fact of the matter is baseball has not been doing well this year. And I will be at the SEC tournament, though, so that I will be traveling for that. But South Carolina, as I alluded to, has been in a rough patch this entire season. And it's nothing new. We've talked about it nearly every week at this point. And Gamecocks are coming off of potentially their worst weekend of the year when they got outscored 39-8 against Florida. And we're going to start off the show talking about what happened Monday, which nothing happened, but obviously a lot of rumors popping up on social media and stuff, and rumors circulating about Paul Mainieri's job status moving forward. And unsurprisingly, nothing happened. And he went on 107.5 The Game on Monday to shut down any talk that there's anything going on. Like, he is here to stay. He's not going anywhere, hence the title of this video. And then on Tuesday, he went ahead and, reaffirmed that he is not going anywhere. And here is what he had to say about his future at South Carolina.
I've been around a long time, and I've had the arrows and the bullets come my way, and I'd rather them come at me than the kids. So, at some point we'll be standing in front of you, and you all will be saying to me, you told us this was going to happen, and it will. It's just everybody's impatient, everybody wants it right now. And, I brought it on myself because, I said it's a one-year plan. Well, you have to say that because I don't want the kids that have 1 year left to think I'm looking beyond their last season. I didn't know the players at that time. I had never been on the field with them. I didn't really know what our strengths and limitations were. But I just wanted those kids to know, look, we're going to recruit with an eye on the future, but I'm going to give you everything I got, and our staff's going to give you everything we've got this year because it's your last year. We understand that. So that's, people say that almost like I was guaranteeing them we were going to Omaha the first year, But, you guys have followed sports and understand sports. When there's a change for a reason. I've been.
So, again, that's what Paul Mainieri had to say about his future with the Gamecocks. And, yeah, he's not going anywhere. So, I know everyone has seemingly wanted him gone. And, look, I understand it. I understand it. The season has not been good by any stretch of the imagination. Currently 26-23 overall, 5-19 in the SEC, and potentially on track to have the worst season record-wise in the SEC in program history, and that is not good. And the reality of the situation is, man, even if South Carolina has thought about getting rid of him, which we don't know, they can't. That buyout is looming over their heads, and $5.2 million is not something easy to move on from. So looks like Paul is going to be here for the at least going into next year. And we'll see. Again, if this is the case again next season, that's a different conversation for a different day. But as of right now, he is the head baseball coach moving forward.
Yeah. Like you said, there was a lot of stuff, kind of circulating about, expecting a call, or a decision made by, someone this week. And, like you heard in that clip, coach kind of put that to bed. There's a lot of, he was a great recruiter, Still is. He got some good guys in this year, but he's known as a really good recruiter and really good, for a reason. And they're kind of a sell job there in some of those quotes. And it's frustrating. I think, probably a little tongue in cheek, and I don't think anybody was expecting Omaha this year. But no one was also expecting the worst performance from the school or from the program ever in the SEC. So, it's obviously not going the way we've wanted, and hopefully, some things are being done behind the scenes that can kind of, springboard us into better stuff, moving forward. But to your point, I mean, unless there's a retirement announcement or something, he's not going anywhere. It's not feasible with the money that's tied to it.
Yeah, it's definitely not feasible at all, and it's just rough. And you got comments like this one here from Connor, who says last year's team would beat this year's team easily, like almost miss Kingston at this point. I agree. Like I think last year's team was like, I know Mark Kingston got fired last year, and I know last year's team was not that good. Like, yes, they made it to the regional, and they had a good little run in the SEC tournament, but I mean, they were coming sluggish into Hoover, man. They had just gotten swept in back-to-back weekends, like not even really close in most of those games, and looked kind of like dead. But they woke up in Hoover, made a little bit of a run, and then they got bounced in the regional, and that's why Coach Kingston got fired. But I almost think like so many people wanted him gone last year, and I'm not saying things would be. You had to move on from him at some point because he just wasn't getting you to where you wanted to go. But
yes,
the regression has to be noted this season. I know a lot of people are going to say like, oh, just wait for Paul to get his players in and all that stuff. Well, technically he has. I mean, a lot of the kids on this team are new players coming in. Like there's, I think maybe 13 or 14 returning players, if I'm remembering correctly. And the rest are transfers and new, high school commits coming in and stuff, JUCO guys. So, and yes, some of the players recruited are from the Kingston era. Some of them are from Mainieri. But some of the work, I mean, it's not like Paul Mainieri was coming in and like, the team was in shambles. Like it's not like they're having the season they're having right now. Like they were competitive in the SEC last year, went 13-17, won a few series here and there, even swept some series, got beat down the stretch, but I mean, like they weren't terrible last year. This is just a different type of baseball I have not seen since covering South Carolina. And again, I was not here in 2019 to know what the 8-22 SEC season was like, but there have been so many beatdowns along this way, and they've lost games. It's just like, how do you lose that game? And then they go out there and get beat 30-3 in 2 games in a doubleheader against Florida. They get run ruled by Arkansas, A&M. I mean, they get swept by Tennessee. It's just like so many bad losses this year in a season full of them. And I don't remember it ever really being like this last year. It's just different.
Yeah, no, it's, I was officially recruited by the program in the mid 2000s. So yeah, this is kind of uncharted territory. And it's not fun. And, I think there was for as up and down as the Kingston era was, I think fans were hoping that Coach Mainieri's excitement would, and some, because Coach Chiefs was always very nice, but didn't always exude the most personality in interviews and whatnot. So I think kind of some of Coach's more charismatic talk kind of really reinvigorated the fan base, and it's gone totally sideways. To your point, I've never seen a team lose a game by giving up 2 grand slams in the 9th inning. This team has done that. It's again, I think it's all made all the more disappointing by losing the close games early on in the conference play, dropping a couple of those Tennessee games, dropping the Texas A&M games, dropping the Oklahoma game. and then you've just had this string of just kind of lifeless baseball. Like I said, I mean, the Florida doubleheader was just embarrassing. I mean, a real low point, and it's, I hate that it was a low point when you were celebrating, the teams that done the most in program history. It was really a really contrast there to celebrating those guys to then what the product was, on Sunday. And yeah, man, I don't quite know where they go from here. You've got some people close to the program, putting out there with their name on it that the guys don't. I don't know if respect's the quote, but don't want to play for him. I don't quite know where you go from here. And I know some of this is disgruntled. It's been a long season. It's been a rough season, and we still got two more weekends to go, plus the tournament. So it's you still got to truck through it, but it seems to nothing has gone right for them. And I don't know if there is a quick fix. And you're starting over from square one. We've talked about it before. This is an older team this year, so you have KJ and Bo and some of these young guys that are going to hopefully still be with us next year. But it's kind of an old team, and for this to be the product, it's really unfortunate.
It is. And again, it's not like I said before, it's not like the roster last year was terrible. Like they have a lot of good players on this team. And I think that's the main thing, is that they brought in players that you thought were going to be really good pieces for you, and it just hasn't shook out that way. Like KJ Scobie, Bo Hollins have been nice. Brandon Stone's shown you flashes. I think Jarvis Evans has shown you flashes too, but there's been so many inconsistencies to where it's like you kind of getting the results you are. And it doesn't help that you have in SEC play, you have like an 8.45 ERA. You're second to last in most major offensive and pitching categories. I mean, it's just not a recipe for success. And let's turn the conversation over a little bit to, you mentioned it, like, where do you go from here? I think it's the main question. Like, recruiting is obviously going to be so much of a focal point this offseason. And it's good to see South Carolina has already they've always been focused on recruiting and busy with that, trying to build the roster for next year. And they've added some JUCO guys lately, and they have a nice little high school class coming in for not just next year, but the 2 seasons from now for the class of 2026. And I'll get into a quote here from Mainieri in a second on the challenges of recruiting with this being as tough of a season as it is. But then you also have to figure out, like, do you make Mainieri's not going anywhere, but do you make any internal changes with your staff maybe? Or I think the better question is, you see the stats and how bad they've been this year from a pitching and offensive standpoint. Do you almost change some of what you're doing in terms of philosophy with, we know Paul does not he says he doesn't like to, he hasn't said that he doesn't like to walk. He just thinks, why not be a little bit more aggressive, right? Like you'd rather see a guy hit a 2-run homer or a 3-run homer, but you haven't been able to do that this year. You don't have power on this team. So obviously you're going to try to bring that in for next year, bringing guys who throw harder. That's clearly what he wants. But I mean, it's not a simple fix as bring in a new roster and that'll change everything. If the philosophy is the same, you're going to have guys struggle. And I think you got to have that reflection in the mirror moment of what we did this season did not work. It's not just a talent problem. It's not just a coaching problem. It's a overall South Carolina problem from top to bottom.
Yeah, and again, the pitching's been far too inconsistent. At least with the offense, you can chalk it up to not the most talent. Some guys being injured, just some guys being banged up. Not huge historic numbers from Ethan like we had his freshman sophomore year. You can, like I said, some of your main guys are freshmen, or at least some guys that have really stepped up and taken some roles on the offense are freshmen. So you can chalk the offense up to we've seen I think we can both say we've seen improvement this year from certain guys on offensively. Especially Kazmar, the jump Nathan Hall made from Clemson to here. I think we've seen Scobie, hit a little bit of that freshman wall, but he had a big hit, or big swing, this past weekend. Obviously, Bo's been playing, he has, he's a freshman, he has his ups and downs, but I think we can comfortably say the offense has at least shown some improvement this year. The pitching has been horrendous. It is unenjoyable to watch. They don't throw enough strikes and they don't miss enough bats. And I don't know what the quick fix is. These guys have pretty good stuff. We've talked all year how Jake McCoy has some of the best stuff on the team and the conference, I believe. Brandon Sweeney was running up in the mid 90s at times. We've obviously seen Brandon Stone be really good. So it's been too inconsistent. So I don't know if there needs to be a philosophy change there, if it is just more bring in guys that you want to have, or that you profile better working with. I do think, the pitching staff kind of, other than getting Jarvis and Stone. I mean, we got some guys in, but again, I don't know whether, a new recruiting class of pitchers will help, take the next step, but that's really the thing that's got to change. You can't run an 8 ERA in this conference. It's unsustainable. And I don't know what the walk per 9 numbers are, but they can't be good. I mean, they've got to be at least 6 or 7 walks per 9. If you just focus on conference play, because like I said, this team beats the teams they're supposed to beat. They beat up on the non-conference. They beat up on the midweek. And I say beat up, they win the games. But when they get to conference play, they've just been outclassed. So it's taken a step there of what you got to do to get those guys better and more prepared.
Totally. I mean, you're doing your job against the teams that you're supposed to beat. You may not be blowing them out, but you're winning the games. And it's just something about SEC play. It's whether the teams are just so much better than you, or you're just I think it's just the fact you're just making so many mistakes too, and it adds up. Now, here's what Paul had to say about, because I asked him the other day, seriously, like, what are the challenges of recruiting, knowing that you're not a winning program right now. You're a team that is in the bottom of the SEC standings, and you're having a really rough year. So how does what kind of challenge does that present?
So you're talking about kids want to go play for a winning program. Sure. They have to believe in you. They have to believe in the message you're giving them, and they have to believe in your vision for the program. They have to believe in the role that they can play in that. If you're a young man and you're looking for a school, you could choose to go to a school that's already, a top 5 team in the country, or you can go to a place where your legacy can be that you were part of the turnaround. How did I recruit the kids to LSU when we were having that rough first year? I sold DJ LeMayu and Anthony Renato and all these kids on what their role will be in the turning this program into the right direction and getting it on track again. So some kids may not be interested, but others would like the challenge and like to create their own legacy. So every kid makes their decision for their own reasons. What motivates one may not motivate the other. So you got to find the right ones.
So I agree with him on what he has to say. I think he gave a perfect answer, to be honest. Like, you have to recruit that way in terms of, like, yes, you're not you can't sell teams on the fact that you're a winning program right now. And I think a lot of the people that bought, like the players that bought into Paul last year, just from talking to some guys when they initially committed and stuff, was the fact that they're playing for such a guy that has a winning history. Like, he's won everywhere he's been, and he's a legend in the game. But that kind of wears off after a season where you see the results and it just wasn't very good. You also factor in his age, and you don't know how long he's going to be here. And you hear the rumors of his job status, which again, he shut them down. And, I don't know. I mean, it's just, there's a lot that kind of it's an uphill battle to climb in recruiting. And to be fair, they are doing a good job in recruiting. I mean, they're putting together a nice class for, like I said, 25 and 26, and they are doing really good in the JUCO level, getting the guys, especially from a power bat standpoint. They're bringing in a lot of offense, hopefully for next year, and then the transfer portal opens up in June. So you got about a month or so here until the portal will open, and then you're diving right in. But it's not as easy as some people are going to want to come play for a program that needs to be turned around, but you're looking at guys probably that are mid-majors and guys that are kind of not getting the looks from the LSUs and the Tennessees, the power SEC teams right now that you have to go up against.
Yeah, no, he's fighting an uphill battle for sure. And like you said, I mean, perfect answer from Coach there. You have to sell guys on wanting to be the change. The kind of the days of talking about, back-to-back national championships and your kind of recruiting pitch are over. And I think they've been over for a few years now, but that's like you said, it's the perfect answer. I think the JUCO level is somewhere where they can really have an impact. We had a ton of impactful JUCO guys, on our teams, and I think that they're a real resource to help turn programs around quickly. Even with the transfer portal now, I don't, it's the early days still, but I don't think the transfer portal will be as impactful as it is in, say, football or basketball when it comes to kind of high impact transfers. It's just different games, and it's hard to affect that much change on winning with one or two guys the way it is in those sports. So yeah, I think hitting the JUCO recruiting trail is paramount, and then hopefully they can get some of these guys in, and big things retaining the guys that have been building blocks this year. Again, I'll mention again, making sure KJ and Bo both stay, I think are going to be big things for kind of the building blocks of the offensive side of the ball. Pitching, it's again, I don't know kind of how they fix that right away, other than just another year with Coach Rooney, and he gets he's got a very good track record as well. So hopefully it's just another year of getting in there and guys buying into what they're preaching.
Before we shift over to the Auburn series, talking about that, which starts tonight on ESPN2 now. It was supposed to be on ESPNU at 8, but it's now on ESPN2 at 7. Got to talk to you guys real quick about our main show sponsor, Clint Hammond of CMG Home Loan. So maybe you are looking to buy that dream home that you've always been wanting. You're ready to take that next step, but got no idea where to begin. Got good news for you. Clint can help you out. He's been in the mortgage industry for a very long time now, so he's a seasoned veteran in that department, and he can take you through the process step by step and help you out along the way. He's a lifelong Gamecock fan, also a longtime supporter of Gamecock Central and all of our GC Live programs. So you're in the right hands with him. If you're interested, give him a call, 803-422-6797. The NMLS number for him is 71597, or go to clinthammond.com for more info. All right. So as I mentioned, Gamecocks begin a 3-game series with a top 10 Auburn team that is, they were not good last year. They were rough, man. They were in the same position that South Carolina is basically in right now. I believe they went 8-22 in conference play, so that is hard to look at. But Auburn is a number 8 team in the country now. They've turned it around. And before we get into our thoughts on the weekend and stuff, Paul was asked once again about Auburn potentially being the model to follow for how to turn a program around in 1 year. And here are kind of his initial thoughts on that and if he agrees with it.
Absolutely. It shows it can be done. The one thing that has to happen, and I believe that our administration is doing that, is they have to give you the support, because it's an expensive sport to put a team together now. I think you all know that. And listen, it's not like you're the Yankees or you're just going to go out and buy free agents, and it's still recruiting. Everybody in the league is spending money on players, so it's all relative. And but it shows what Auburn's done this year. It shows that anything is possible. Way back, I told you, the difference between 07 and 08 for me was like night and day. Of course, it was different circumstances. Then there was no transfer portal, there was no NIL, there was no revenue share, there was none. 11.7 scholarships, not whatever we're going to have next year. Circumstances are different, but Terry and I know how to do it. So that's all I can say. I'm confident that we can make this program what we want it to be. Absolutely.
So again, that's what Paul Mainieri did have to say about the the possibility of turning this thing around another year and looking at Auburn as a team that has done it. I mean, Auburn's going to be potentially hosting potentially being a top 8 seed in the NCAA tournament, and the Gamecocks at this stage of the year don't have a lot to play for. They are out of the postseason at this point in the year. I mean, unless they go out and win the SEC tournament, it's just not happening. So, and EXO brings up a good comment here. I mean, running behind, firing a coach after 1 year is not a good move if you want to hire another coach who's supposed to pick this mess up. And yes, of course, like if you do fire, if Paul were going to be gone after this year, you're leaving yes, you can turn around a program in 1 year with the portal and stuff. I mean, just Auburn's doing a great job right now, but sometimes you just got to kind of stick with it and just trust the guy that, has proven he can win. And yes, he may be older. Yes, he may have been out of the game for a few years. And yes, he may not be going through a good year right now, but he believes in what can be done. And, he sees Auburn as a perfect example of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the stuff you have to look towards. You've got to kind of look at programs that have done similar things, and and I know Coach has said that he has some experience with that. It's his first couple years at LSU, and it is I think people just have to understand it's just a new age and getting guys on campus and new age of student athletes. To go back to firing a coach, it would seem rash. Again, the only reason it's being discussed is because how bad the season has gone. But it's just one of those things where you have to, for what it is right now, you have to look towards the future and see where you can improve and build upon things. And I think Coach is taking the right approach to it. The only real quibble I have is Coach taking on some of the heat from the players, and not necessarily name dropping guys throughout the season, and this is what should have happened, this is the mistake they made, this I wish there was a little bit more accountability, even if it's just coach talk from him. But with when it comes to the program and things like that, I think he's taken the right tact and the right course of action of, we've got to look to build this thing up. It's not going to happen overnight. We are working hard to get guys in. We've seen some of that happening over here the last couple of weeks, and hopefully it just builds and continues, and they can find some positives to take towards the offseason.
And this is a good comment here. I mean, well, number one, the buyout is $5.2 million. That's just a big number that is hanging over their heads. But this is the second comment here from Tito's and Chicken is what I think needs to also be addressed a little bit. And we'll get into the Auburn series here in a second. But the money you're losing from fans is too much. And I know you weren't at the ballpark this weekend with some of the teammates and stuff, but I was there, and look, Friday, I give South Carolina fans a pass because, I mean, if you were there, you probably left because that game, that was a 3-hour delay. And look, if I had the option, I would not have been there. But, Saturday was not a great crowd before the rain delay. And then Sunday was a beautiful day outside, and it was empty. I mean, it was just people they may still be interested in some respect because it's South Carolina baseball, and this is a program that has a lot of history and people care here. People may say they're checked out and stuff, and
Yep.
maybe they are, but like there's a lot of people that still care, even though they will sit through lots of bad losses and stuff. And it's it's stunning to see how bad the attendance is. And Ethan, I know you can attest to this and talk about it, but I mean, amongst all the problems this program has, besides what's going on the field, people not showing up to the ballpark. I mean, we'll see how it looks next weekend against LSU, but like there were more Florida fans there than South Carolina. And I saw it in Hoover last year. LSU travels extremely well for baseball. And I can guarantee next week we're going to see a lot of purple and gold in Founders Park this week.
Yeah. I think to go back to the comment, I think a portion that and very well I have not seen the attendance as bad as it's been, and I know that was something I was really kind of harping on before we really started losing a lot of these series and getting swept. I think the athletic department's factoring in that they've got to account for $20.5 million to pay all players across all sports coming up. That's a case with the NCAA that's probably going to go into effect this summer. That revenue sharings, the teams are going to have to factor in $20.5 million amongst all sports. Again, there was a great piece in CBS Sports about a month or two ago about the time that the women basketball team went on their run, talking about kind of how that was going to break up, kind of break down the how that money's going to break down. Anyways, back to our guys. You can pretty much bank on the attendance isn't going to be there the rest of the year. Fans are checked out. I wouldn't want to watch a losing team either. I get to watch it from the comfort of my own home and turn it on and off kind of as I please. So I know paying the money, dealing with all that, it's hard to ask people to pay money to watch something that's not going to bring them joy. So I think, and from what I know about our fans and everything, they're going to have to see winning. No, I don't think it matters who the coach is. Cause again, I mean, even with Coach Mainieri this year, I know the Clemson series left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, but the attendance hasn't been good all year from the little bit I've been seeing on the games. I haven't been to a game this year, so I'm only speaking to what the TV cameras show me. But the attendance hasn't been great this year, even before the Clemson series. Like I know our fans, and we want to see winning. We want to see improvement. I don't think if we went and hired Lamonis, who's free agent out there now, unless he goes out there and takes 2 out of 3 from Clemson, I don't think you're going to see a rocking crowd, for a couple months. And the fans have the right to be skeptical. It's been a long time since we've had a real solid winning program, consistently year after year after year, to the standards they want. So you don't want to push the fans away more. I guess you don't want to keep adding years of removement because then people get disinterested and then they're unbothered. So you don't want it to turn into that situation. But I think we're kind of we got to resign ourselves, and it sucks to say it that way, but we got to resign ourselves to the fact that this is going to be at least another year. And how can we improve it there going forward?
Yeah, and this is a good comment here from the guys over at the Welcome Home podcast. I mean, look, Founders Park does need upgrades. It's a nice ballpark. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it is, but it's what is it? 16 years old now. 2009. I mean,
it was. Yeah, its first year was 2009, so we're at 16 years. Yep.
I mean, look, you gotta make adjustments. You gotta improve the ballpark as best you can, and like the cup holder thing, like not having cup holders out there it's an issue across most USC sports. But I mean, the ballpark is one thing, but also the biggest thing I take away from this year, besides the on-field product and the issues with that, people just don't care. And voting with your wallet is a real thing. And yes, the numbers may say that there were 7,000 people there for all three of the games, but that's just paid attendance. And people bought season tickets probably at the beginning of the year thinking like this is going to be a great season and stuff. But I can imagine a lot of people are probably not using those tickets right now and just either giving them away to friends or just letting them go. I mean, it's just it's that bad. Like
it's a sunk cost. Yeah, it's a sunk cost. And people, like I said, people aren't going to go show up to things to feel bad. They can feel bad at home. You know,
yeah, they can watch
just,
a game.
It's not.
It's just
no.
wrong.
To your point, yeah, no, they can watch it at home and turn it off once it's 14-3 or 14-2 in the ninth inning. And we're making a pitch and change.
It's
what I mean. Like
it's rough, man. I mean, and again, like other teams around the country, like I'll give A&M's a perfect example. A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the Saturday game where they had a 12-2 lead and then they just blew it. I mean, a lot of people left when it was like the fifth inning and Carolina's up by 10 runs. And you're thinking like, okay, Carolina's going to run away with this thing. It'll be over. And give those fans a lot of credit. Even when A&M was down by as much as they were still into it, still going crazy. And then they get rewarded with a walk-off win in comeback fashion. South Carolina, I mean, they were down like 22-3, and it's just like it's a ghost town, man. And that was game one of a doubleheader, and you see no one there for the second game. And if I'm looking at that in a higher up position, I'm just kind of like, how do I fix that? On the field product, you got to figure that out too. But the fans, you got to get them in the ballpark. That's people that we're talking about that are spending money on food, drinks, anything, man. And they're coming out to watch your baseball program. You have to give them something to come to the ballpark about, and they don't have much reason to right now. And honestly, I can't say I blame them.
No, and I mean from the player standpoint, I chose to come play at the University of South Carolina over where my parents wanted me to go, North Carolina, because the fans, like my first ever South Carolina baseball game was a Clemson on a Wednesday at the old Sarge Fry. And there was whatever the attendance was at Sarge Fry. That's how many people were there on a Wednesday night. There were people tailgating for a 6:00 game at 3:30 on a Wednesday. And I was just like, yeah, I'd rather come here. There are a lot of people. These people care. And like, as a player, especially a teenager, and obviously as you get older, same thing, but like the excitement of knowing you're going to pitch in front of 5,000 to 8,000 people on a nightly basis is freaking cool. I couldn't imagine going to. I remember going to see like University of Maryland games. I knew one of their pitching coach or head coach at the time. He was the old pitching coach at William & Mary. And I remember going to like a Maryland game, and there was like 100 people there. And I was like, well, I don't care how much I like this guy. I'm never going to Maryland.
Exactly.
And it's just, these guys want to play in front of fun environments. And, until our fans have a reason to go to the park, it's going to keep looking like this. And, again, upgrades need to be made for sure. It looks like the same Founders Park I played in 15 years ago.
It's the exact same. That's an issue that ballpark, like, we're Yankee fans. Yankee Stadium has gotten so many renovations, and it opened in 2009 as well. I mean, Citi Field with the Mets, they've done, and I know it's an MLB ballpark. I know it's a different thing, but even college stadiums have gotten massive. Mississippi State is undergoing major renovations, and obviously they just fired Chris Lemonis. But even before that, we had heard about Duty Noble undergoing major renovations, and they just opened that ballpark a few years ago, or I should say reopened it, because they built it on the old field at Duty Noble was. So
Vandy's done a number of upgrades. I think Arkansas has done at least one renovation since I've played. These schools understand like this is a major thing to people to this area of the world. We talked about on the last podcast. The SEC has won the national championship dating back to 2017. Like this, I hate to pull the line. It just means more, and it doesn't. It's it's not. It is a far cry from that at this point, and it is a whole hierarchy of things that can change, and it's you can't stare at, it's hard to stare at the tree through the forest, but it's, you got to start doing some things. And that's, again, the things we're talking about is bigger than a Paul Mainieri issue, or, bigger than the 5-hole hitter, not, knocking in a run with runners on first and third. Those things need to happen, but there are also some larger things that need to be addressed as well that I hope we can, and I hope we can kind of move forward with some of these things.
Nah, you said it perfectly, man. I mean, look, losing on the field is one thing, but when people aren't showing up and they don't care, it's a bigger problem, in my opinion. Like, you gotta figure out both, but how to get fans back, it goes hand in hand. You get fans back in the ballpark by winning, and South Carolina hasn't done that this year, and it's sad to see, man. It really is. And so this weekend, maybe if they can find a way to win a series, it's not going to change anything, but maybe people will take notice and be like, okay, be a top 10 team in a series, and you play LSU next weekend, maybe I'll go out to the ballpark if the weather's nice. But that leads us into the conversation, man. Let's just dive straight into it. We haven't talked a ton about this Auburn team, but again, they've had a good year. They surprisingly don't hit for a ton of power. You would be surprised. I mean, South Carolina has hit 22 home runs this season. Auburn's hit 28, and they're hitting about the same. I mean, 265 average for the Tigers, 127 runs driven in SEC play. It's just they are finding ways to win games. And you look at some of the series wins and the notable wins they have. They took a series at Tennessee this past weekend. They won a series against Mississippi State. They got swept by Texas, but they also swept LSU, who's coming into town next week. And then a big series, I think, that kind of turned the tide in a literal sense was beating Alabama in a weekend series at the beginning of the month. And I think this Auburn team is dangerous. I think they're going to be a real out in the postseason, but South Carolina has a chance here to go out, do what a lot of people don't think you're going to be able to do, and prove people wrong and win a series. But I'll ask you, man, let's get into predictions. How do you see this weekend going for the Gamecocks? As always, what's your X factor, and just what are you looking to see?
I unfortunately, with it going on the road against Auburn, especially after having such a tough week against Florida, I unfortunately for the first time all year going to predict a sweep for us. I think we get swept on the road. If there is an X factor, I think throwing strikes, stop walking so many guys, like make this team beat you by putting the ball in play over and over and over again. I think that's just kind of what it comes down to. The offense, it's going to continue to just kind of plod along with no Petrie. But you've got to a point you made last week, you've got to give the offense a chance. So you can't get down big early and then it's just sunk. Your day is just the game's kind of sunk cost at that point because you just don't have the firepower to get back into some of these games. So I think throwing strikes is the biggest recipe to kind of fixing that. And then just like Jeff said, walk, hit batter, grand slam. It's far too common occurrence with this team that you look at the box score and it's almost double-digit free passes. That's just it's and I hate talking about this, but it's just great. Nothing grinds my gears more than walks, not throwing strikes. So it is gross to look at. So that's my biggest X factor is throw strikes and then try to steal one of these games, 5-4, 4-2, something like that.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, look, pitching has been rough, and you have to throw strikes when you're walking. Like it feels like you're walking so many batters every single game. It's just ridiculous to a point where it's like you're not going to win when you consistently put runners on base, and then these teams drive in runs when you make mistakes throwing meatballs over the zone. So for me, I don't know. I mean, I think South Carolina can win a game, but yeah, I have no reason.
Yeah,
to
for sure.
I have no reason to believe they can. Like I have not seen it consistently enough outside of one weekend against Ole Miss, and you're going on the road in the SEC. I mean, it's rough, and I just don't know. I hear Paul continue to say that they haven't given up, but what I saw last weekend, especially after game two in the series, game one of the doubleheader. I mean, I just saw a team that was not competitive. I mean, that's the biggest thing I'm looking for this weekend is to see a team that looks competitive out there, that has a little bit of fire and doesn't give up at the first sign of trouble. And I can respect that South Carolina has lost some close games this year, and they haven't entirely quit on the year. Otherwise, they would be giving up at this point. But going on the road in the SEC, when times get tough, what is it going to look like? Are they going to break down like they have every time this year, or are they going to find a way to persevere? So I'm going with Auburn to sweep this weekend. I just don't see it. I don't see a recipe for success. When the offense is hitting, the pitching is not good enough. And the decisions on the field with the coaching and whatnot is another issue that we haven't even really talked about that much. I don't like the timing of the mound visits because it typically leads to a guy getting rocked right after. It's not anyone's fault. It just happens, and it's tough. And when you're walking as many guys as you do, it's an issue. And the offense is way too inconsistent as well. So a lot of problems right now, too many to even really name. And here's a good comment here from Mike. We have talked a little bit about the ballpark upgrades, mainly because it was brought up in the chats. We have to address it. But no one's saying that the ballpark upgrades come first. Is it important? Yes, but you need to put a winning product on the field. If you don't have a winning product, it does not matter what upgrade. You could have the nicest stadium in the sport. If you are
nicest empty stadium in baseball,
yes. If you're awful, you're not going to get people to come. Like, it does not matter how nice it is. No one's showing up, and you'll just get road fans coming in. So you got to figure out. Look, they are obviously going to bring in a lot of different players in the summer here, and they have a lot of high school, a lot of JUCO players coming in. Is it going to translate over to wins? We'll have to see. But as far as this year goes, it's basically a wash, and you're going to have to figure out a way to win the SEC tournament, and that's coming up here in about 2 weeks, a little under 2 weeks, and that's tough, and I don't see it happening.
That's a tall ask.
It is a tall ask. So, again, South Carolina heading to Auburn tonight to begin a 3-game series. Tonight's game will be at 7 p.m. on ESPN2. You have Friday's game on SEC Network Plus at 7 o'clock as well. And then Saturday, 3:30 p.m. on SEC Network. So on television. And, we'll see. I'm sure a lot of people tonight are going to be watching South Carolina softball take on A&M with a chance to go to the SEC tournament semifinals. That game will be on at 8 o'clock tonight, roughly, on SEC Network. And, we'll see what happens. But pitching matchup-wise, tonight it's going to be Brandon Stone going up against Cam Tilley for the Tigers. Tomorrow, Jake McCoy against Samuel Dutton. And then Saturday, it's TBA versus Christian Chatterton, a freshman right-hander with a 4-1 record, 3.69 ERA, and 53 strikeouts, 17 walks. So the Gamecocks are looking to get back on track here. I've had a few days off, and then 7 games to go in the year, and it all starts tonight. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, thank you for everybody, tuning in today. Just, keep the faith. These guys got a few more games. Some of these guys could be playing their last college games, coming up. So, keep supporting the guys. I know it's been frustrating, and I know it's not a lot of fun, but just keep rooting those guys on, and we'll address the off season when it gets here, and we'll try to get the guys back on track.
Yeah, no, couldn't said it any better, my man. So we'll have all coverage on GamecockCentral.com throughout the weekend for not just baseball but softball as well. So be sure to subscribe to Gamecock Central if you're not already, to follow along with all updates and game stories and whatnot. So GamecockCentral.com. Head over to the site. So for Ethan Carter, I'm Jack Veltri. Have a great weekend, guys, and we'll talk to you again next week to preview the final weekend of the regular season when the LSU Tigers come to town. thanks so much for tuning in, and have a good one, guys. We'll see you soon. Bye.